All right. Well, let's see. It's 7:05 according to my time here. Let's see what. Yep, 7:05. So we'll go ahead and get started here, just because we want to respect your time, and we also want to have plenty of time for the presenters to share, because we've got some great presenters here tonight. And so, anyway, I want to welcome you all. Thank you for coming. I've mentioned at the beginning here that as you come on, I'd invite you, if you'd like, when the presentation starts, you can turn off your video, but for now we're letting the videos be up so we can see each other as we kind of gather. I'm Chad Cooper. I'm the Executive Director of Sustainable Sanctuary Coalition, one of the hosts, and I want to welcome you. And we've got Jerry Reese here. He's one of the co-hosts with the Environmental Action Committee at Village Church. Jerry, you want to say hello?
I already muted myself, so hello again.
Good for you. And Diane, where's Diane? We've got so many. She's somewhere on here. Nope, there she is. Hi, Diane. Do you want to say hello? Diane is also a co-host. She is with Earth Keepers. Diane Waddell.
Yes, greetings from St. Joseph, Missouri. Got a couple people on from St. Joe, and thrilled for this robust and very well informed group of presenters here. So thank you all so much for being here. Appreciate it.
And we also have Jim Turner, who is a co-host. Jim, do you want to greet? There's Jim. Say hello to us.
Again, I'm very thankful for these presenters who are sharing their expertise tonight. Thanks for coming, all.
I want to thank Jim. I mean, really, he was the ramrod behind a lot of this, getting these great presenters. And so we definitely couldn't have done this without Jim. And honestly, we can't do this without many people. There's so many different people who help make these monthly programs happen. The presenters, we've got volunteers, we've got folks who's sharing about this. And so thank you for everybody. I can't name everybody who's had a significant role tonight, I'm sure. But you know who you are, and thank you so much for all the work that you do. And so we've got a great program for tonight. And I think that a lot of times we do programs that help spark our intellect and make us think more, which tonight will do that. But I think tonight is also a very practical night that will give us some ideas on how we can draw upon the Inflation Reduction Act as individuals, and also as organizations and institutions, to draw upon some of those tax credits and some of those rebates and those sorts of things, so that we can not only help utilize those funds, but also so that we can help keep carbon emissions down. As I said already, I'm Chad Cooper. I'm the Executive Director of Sustainable Sanctuary. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. We are recording, if that's okay with you. If not, then you're welcome to jump off and watch the recording at a later time on our YouTube channel. But this is a great turnout. We're so happy for you all to be here. Sustainable Sanctuary, we're an interfaith environmental organization. We really try to put good science in front of people of faith. And so that's what we're doing here tonight. And so we've got three great speakers. We've got Bill Griffith, we've got Bill Roush, and we've got Sharla Riead, who will be presenting. They'll share more about themselves, and the bio has been sent out for each of them in the invitations. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Bill and let him get started. And Bill, thanks for being here, and looking forward to the presentation.
Thanks very much to Chad and everyone that had a role in this. A lot of groups cooperated. It's great collaboration. So yes, I'm Bill Roush. I'm retired from the Black Veatch Renewable Energy Group, and I was the founding director of the Metro Energy Center many years ago. It still continues to serve people in the area very well. I'm very happy about that. And now I'm on the boards of the Kansas Climate and Energy Project and the Mainstreet Credit Union. And when we started this, I'd like to give you some kind of framework to understand the entire Inflation Reduction Act, but I really can't do it. It's just so large and covers so many areas, homes and businesses, industry. It's really a lot, but I would like to give you a bit of a framework for at least the home part of it, which I think is probably most people's interest here. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. So the home part of the Inflation Reduction Act, you can think of it in two sections. One way to look at it that way, and that would be rebates and tax credits. Those are the incentive techniques that are being used to encourage people to take these actions to lower carbon emissions and save energy and money. And on the rebate side of the act, these are intended to be point of sale consumer rebates that encourage behavior right when people are making the decision. And I think that's what I'll say about that on this slide. But the tax credits, then the next bullet point, are both enlarged, and they have new technologies that are added. And those, of course, are tax credits on your federal tax returns, federal taxes only we're talking about here. And you would buy something or do something, and then as you file your tax returns at the end of the year or into April, you would then claim that credit at that time. So it's kind of a delayed, you see the difference between the rebate and the credit. The tax credit is a delayed incentive that comes to you later. You have to be in kind of an investment mode to think about that. And not everybody is. So rebates are a fantastic addition to this program because it helps people who need the money now, to save the money now and can't wait till later. So another big distinction in the two different kinds of incentives, rebates and tax credits, are that rebates are state run. It's DOE money, it's Department of Energy, federal money, but the states, it's money given to the states that would then run the program. And then the tax credits are their federal incentives, and they will, the rules will come down through the Department of Treasury and the IRS. And so, you know, that's how that will come. So if we could go on to the next slide then. So not only are there two different kinds of incentives, rebates and tax credits, there's two different kinds of rebates, if you will. I give you this kind of statutory number there, 50121 and 50122. And the reason I do that is so you can, you know, we're not giving tax advice. And so you might want to save these numbers to have, you know, your tax advisor expert or that sort of person look some of these things up later in reference to that. But 50121 is called the home efficiency rebate side of it, and there's no income verification for that. So that's a rebate for everybody. The 50122 is specific for home electrification, and that does require income verification. And I'll talk more about the details in an upcoming slide. Those rebates, on the third bullet point there, it says that they will be received from the state energy departments. Well, let me preface all this. There's a lot we don't know about the administration, particularly of the state programs in the Inflation Reduction Act at this time. So the Congress has authorized all these things to happen, but the federal departments and then the states will have to implement that, and they will create specific rules and help people understand where to go. But I'm thinking that, you know, in the state of Kansas, for instance, and I don't think Missouri is much different, the energy office is just a vestige of what it once was. It's not anything comparable to what many states have. And so I know they're beefing that up and getting ready as much as they can, but they may rely, you know, other states have the option of filtering these things through other agencies, if that would be helpful. And I don't know any inside particulars on that, except that they do have weatherization programs and things like that that are run by groups that might be helpful. So Kansas, it's is going to get 106 million, and Missouri 151 million. I'm not sure how that exactly happened. Oftentimes Missouri has twice as many people, so it's surprising that they didn't get twice as much money, but and there must be a reason. Maybe it's income levels and that sort of thing for that. The states can't take 20% for administration, and that it will help states like Missouri and Kansas beef up an energy office to handle some of this. Now, the states won't even get their money until mid-2023. So no one should expect to go into a store or talk to a contractor in January of 2023, next month, and get a rebate right away. That's just not going to happen. The National Association of State Energy Offices is trying to facilitate the movement of information from the DOE to the states about these rebates and the funding and all things about this. And I listened to their presentation to the state energy folks. It's public, it's out there on YouTube. You can listen if you want to spend an hour and a half listening to it. And I'm sure they said late 2024 is when they expect rebates to start coming. Now, I hope that is under promising, and I hope they will over deliver. So I'm hopeful that rebates will start flowing much sooner than that, but we'll see. Okay, moving on to the next one. Again, on the tax credits, I did put the 25C and 25D part of the Internal Revenue Code in, specifically for people to refer their tax advisors to. And so you can have at least a starting point to find the, the forms and that sort of thing that you might need. The last bullet point there, if anybody is deciding to do is doing a solar system now and they're paying the bill now, this law didn't change the fact that you still get 26% for that kind of investment, 26% tax credit off the total cost of that system if you do it now in 2022. But if you could wait till 2023, that will go up to 30%. Prior to the IRA, the tax credit was supposed to step down again next year, and instead it's going up to 30%. So let's go to the next one. So the change in the tax credits. First of all, there's more technologies than used to be available. Maybe people don't even remember, but there has been on the books a $500 lifetime home energy credit. And you could only take that once, and you may have taken it years ago and forgotten about it. I don't know. You could still take it in 2022 if you've had those kinds of expenditures or want to make those in 2022. But that was once, and that was it. The new IRA is completely different in a couple of senses. One is it's bigger. It's over twice as big. It's $1,200 instead of $500, and it's annual. So, and it's good through 2032. So all the years through 2032, you can take $1,200 in federal tax breaks if you make qualified expenditures each year paced throughout that. So that is a huge mind-bending change. So this will, for one thing, the solar industry in particular has never had that kind of dependable tax credits on the books and guaranteed for a decade. That's the history of the solar industry, has been on again, off again, on again, off again with the tax credits. So it is a wonderful change. So the credit is good for 30%, but it is capped for each technology. You know, for instance, an energy audit, which if you spend $500 for an energy audit of your home, then you'll get $150 credit, tax credit. If you spend $1,000, you'll still just get $150 tax credit. And so they kind of set these up to give some guidance on, you know, an energy audit now costs $400 to $500. And so that maxes out that tax credit. And so I think that's kind of why they were setting it that way. Now there is an exception, and that exception is for the new home furnace type of heat pumps. So if you buy one of those, you can go over, you can exceed that annual cap for up to $2,000. So that is the one exception that allows you to go over the $1,200 in 1 year of tax credit. You can go to $2,000 if you're replacing your furnace with a heat pump type furnace system. So next one, please. So the rules for credits, the income tax credits that are coming from the federal government, Treasury, and IRS, sometime now in this month, we hope that they will be able to spell out the details of specific types of equipment. We have, you know, there's a sentence or two in the bill, of course, that says what types of equipment, but we expect more guidance in the very details of those technologies. And we hope that they can get that out to us this month so we understand more specifically. It's not going to be until way into 2023 that the states will come out with detailed information on the rebate programs, though. So we'll have to wait on that. So I wish I could say it was different, but that's seems to be the way it's going to be. And, you know, we'll all have to do some watching and work to get ready for that. And here's our disclaimer that we're not providing tax advice. You should consult your tax advisor in your specific situation. I do know that some groups are talking, you know, I'm on the board of the Kansas Climate and Energy Project, and I know those and some others are trying to maybe get some kind of energy navigator type person to help guide people through some of these, you know, the ins and outs, the details of this program. Because here's an example for on the rebates for low-income households, which is under 80% of the area median income, under the middle of the income for that area, then they can get coverage for 100% of the cost of an appliance that is qualified. That's a big deal. But there's rules to be followed, and they're kind of detailed, and so you need to do it right. And so hopefully there'll be some hand-holding and some guidance and some help so people can get what they are qualified for, and it can aid in this transition to cleaner fuels. Moderate income households can get coverage up to 50% of the cost, and these are rebates up to the cap. And if your income is over 150% of your state's median income, you're not eligible for these rebates, and so they wouldn't apply for you. And I want to mention this Rewiring America. It's a word in that line that has the link in it, but Rewiring America is a great website and a great group to get more details about the IRA and all the programs. Their goal is electrify everything, because that's the way they believe we can clean up the utility grid, and then we clean up everything. That's the path that they are suggesting, and they see the IRA as a great way to get there. So you can find the medium income median income for the area that way. For each person, taxpayer, the total discounts or rebates that you can get on electrification project are capped at $14,000. So if you did everything the right way and just claimed everything you could get, you'd replace stoves and water heaters and furnaces and everything you can do, weatherization, etc., then the most you could get is 14,000. So next one, please. So I think this is where I turn it over to Bill Griffith, who will take you through some of these technologies that are listed here.
Hey, Bill, before you go on.
Yes.
14,000, is that a limit per year or for the entire length of the program?
The 14,000 rebate limit is for the, that's all you can ever get.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Bill Roush. My name is Bill Griffith, and I am on the Climate Protection Plan Steering Committee for the City of Kansas City. I was put on that by Mayor Quentin Lucas. And one of our tasks was to update the climate plan. And part of what I was looking at was I was tasked with was looking at electrifying, households, buildings, things like that. So I had to do a deep dive into heat pump water heaters, things like that. So that'll be some of the background here. I was on the chair of the building subcommittee. I also have a background, just real quickly, Sierra Club as a volunteer, dealing with utilities, renewable energy, energy efficiency, things like that as well. Okay, so some of the things that some of you folks may be interested in, we're going to go through each of these individually. A speaker will talk about these 8 points here. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I'm going to look at the first 2 next, heat pumps for heating and cooling, and we're going to do with homes. We're not really doing businesses right here, the bigger ones, commercial ones. This will be residential. And then I'll be looking at heat pump water heaters. And at that point, we will move on to weatherization. So if we could go to the next slide here. Okay, heat pumps for heating and cooling homes. And this is really exciting stuff. You may have seen a few things out there for heat pumps. Just so we know, we are not talking ground source heat pumps, ones that are put into the ground with the lines that come up. This is air source. So they will actually pull hot or cold air out of the atmosphere and run it through some liquid, and then it will either warm or heat the space it's assigned to. So these are called air source heat pumps here. Now, the old type of heat pumps are the ones you might see in the South, are stage 1 and stage 2 heat pumps. They could either go 1 speed or 2 speed. Those will not keep houses in this area warm. Okay. But about 7 years ago, a new technology came out, variable speed or inverter driven heat pump, depending on the manufacturer. They'll use different terminology there. And the exciting thing about that is it will heat homes to a lot lower temperature. For example, the one in my wife and I's house right now is set to go down to 5 degrees before it needs assistance from anything else. And, if it goes down to 5 degrees, that's going to take care of about 95% of what's needed for heat in this area. So that's very exciting what it does there. And in fact, some of you may know this, but Norway has a huge amount of heat pumps. Canada does. Maine's got a big heat pump drive going on. So there's some places that are a lot colder than here that are using heat pumps. Okay, so that's number one there. By the way, my email will be available at the end. If any of you have further questions about heat pumps and want to email me that's not covered tonight, for example, like, hey, what's an installer or a couple installers I could get bids from? Please email me, because one of the issues out there is we are still fighting. Some installers will come to a house and go, oh, no, you don't want a heat pump because it will not warm your place below 45 or 40 degrees. And they either don't know about the new technology or they're getting close to retirement and don't care to learn about it. So please, if you get someone like that coming to do a bid at your house, bid them good day and find somebody else, because they are doing a disservice. But we do run into that a lot in this area, and also it's apparently across the United States as well. Next thing on the heat pump is it's actually an air conditioning unit that has a reverse valve. So you don't get a heat pump when you need to replace your furnace. You get a heat pump to replace your outdoors air conditioning unit. It will be a much more efficient air conditioning unit, just on the SEER level, you know, probably 16, 18. I think you need an in fact, you need an 18 for the tax credit. So 18 SEER on the $2,000 tax credit. If you're in Kansas City, Missouri area, you can also get an Evergy $750 rebate as well. So what they did, for example, at my house was take out the outside air conditioning unit, put another unit in, a heat pump unit in, and a new coil. And the heat pump has legs on it so it can sit up higher. So snow can't get to it, because you don't want snow right around it because it's trying to heat. And as far as wind goes, if you think you're in an area where you're going to have a lot of wind coming in on it, you can either put a little fence there or just plant a bush, and that'll take care of that. So again, the heat pump unit will first be an air conditioning unit. So heat pump's kind of a weird name for it, but you know, it is what it is. And then what it does is it will either be a communicating or non-communicating system. Most of the time, you're going to want a non-communicating heat pump, because a non-communicating heat pump will not talk to your air handler. Because if you get a communicating one, you're going to have to buy a new air handler that will talk to your heat pump, and they're with another couple $1,000s. A non-communicating heat pump simply talks, if I can use that term, to the thermostat, and that's what we got. It just communicates with the thermostat, and you know, I can use app on my phone and, you know, raise temperature, cool the temperature down that way. But definitely a non-communicating is probably the better idea there. Heat pumps also use less electricity to start than a gas furnace or a regular air conditioner. So you don't have much of a draw when they turn on. They are also cheaper to run than a natural gas furnace. Now, this one was interesting because I had to do a lot of research on this, because the city of Kansas City, Missouri was concerned about heat pumps and would they cost more than natural gas furnaces if we were going to look at putting these in low-income folks' home. So found a couple of great studies on this, and for a 65 or 80% burnt natural gas furnace, it blows it away. It's a little better than a 95% gas furnace, but if you add your AC savings, you're going to get quite a bit of savings there. So if you can handle the upfront cost, which it's not a lot more, but it is a little more, but a $2,000 tax credit or possibly the rebate, if that's a possibility for you. And then the Evergy rebate, which is separate if you're in Kansas City, Missouri, $750 there. Couple other things here. You do not have to upgrade your electric panel for the heat pump, because again, the draw is not much there. So you do not have to upgrade your heat panel for heat pump. Now, there's other things you might have to, and we'll talk about that later when we get to electric panels there. Another great thing about it is let's say your home needs a lot of insulation. Normally, and you get a home energy test and then maybe get some insulation on this. The heat pump I have can be adjusted up or down on sizing, because sizing is real important on heat pumps. Now, not all of them can do that, but that's kind of a neat trick there. But the main reason, if you're environmentally concerned about the climate, what a heat pump will do, it's going to take out a lot of natural gas, and it's going to be cleaner. Here's the problem with Spire. Spire, or let's go with Evergy first. Evergy is not a fuel company. The fuel could be wind, it could be solar, it could be natural gas, it can be coal, it could be nuclear. Evergy does all of those. Spire only does natural gas. It has nowhere to go. So its business model is very challenged by this, and they're very concerned. So if you can save money and also have less toxic fumes in your house and help on climate change, heat pump is a great way to go here. And it's just really exciting what's out there with the heat pumps. So again, if you have questions later in the chat, that's fine. If you want to talk to me later about heat pumps, my email will be out there. And with that, let's go to the next slide, which is heat pump water heaters, the cousin to heat pumps. Okay. So for the rebate on a heat pump water heater, it goes up to $1,750. That's income dependent. Tax credit, 30%. So it's going to be kind of like solar right there. And heat pumps, not counting labor, is probably going to be around, I'm spitballing here, maybe about $1,800 plus labor. Okay. So 30% is not bad on that. That's like, $500 or, not quite $600. Well, with the labor, you'd be able to deduct that too. So $600 or $700 on that. So it's a pretty decent assistance right there. You'll really get savings on the heat pumps on your bill, because it really just sips energy. Depending, I obviously don't know how much everyone showers or how long they shower here, but $100 to $400 a year savings. Also depends on the price of natural gas. And one thing I want to mention about natural gas prices can vary per month. Evergy, in order to raise the price of electricity, has to do a rate case at the Public Service Commission. And that's a lot more onerous for them, and only happens every couple of years. So you definitely have some rate stability by going all electric too. Again, reducing Spire's damage to the climate, getting rid of the gas there. And again, you're not going to have that carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, or nitrogen dioxide, coming out of your heat pump, out of your natural gas water heater. So that's a big deal right there. And a couple heat pump water heaters are fairly new as far as the ones that can plug into a 120-volt outlet. And that's a big deal. So if you need an outlet where your water heater is, downstairs in the basement or in a closet, it costs a lot more to have an electrician put in a 240-volt outlet than a 120-volt outlet. And you might have a 120-volt outlet nearby anyway. So it's cheaper to go ahead and get a one of these newer heat pump water heaters, which really came out, I think, last year or the year before. The only two that I know of out there right now that are good, there could be others, but the only two I know are Riead, R-H-E-E-M, and A.O. Smith. There may be others, but those are the two I know about for sure there. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're ready for the next slide here. Okay. Electric range and cooktop.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Chad here. Before you move on, can you talk a little bit about, so with the heat pump water heaters, if they're in their basement, how they're going to pull the heat from the room and cool them down, cool the rooms down that they're functioning in?
Yeah, they're going to use the air first in the basement, and then it's going to run through a liquid. And each company will have a little proprietary liquid on how it does that. And depending, usually they're going to be wanting to heat it, but if it gets, but anyway, they're going to be using it, heat pump water. They're going to be using that to heat. And then what it'll do is heat it up to whatever temperature setting you have it on. Now, just like any other water heater, if you got 8 people taking a shower, I don't want to be the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th person right in a row. It's just like any other water heater. It'll take some time to come back up once you get new water in there. But it's going to use a proprietary liquid inside a long tube. Just depending on the company, they do them all a little differently. And then that will, if the air down in the basement's, I don't know, 60 degrees, and you need the water temperature 120, that liquid is going to do that. Okay, electric range cooktop. One of the main problems with gas ranges or stoves is most of them that we have in our homes are unvented. If you have one in your house now, check and see if it's vented to the outside, because your water heater, if you have a gas one, and your furnace have to be vented outside. Gas ranges don't have to be, and that's a major problem. You mentioned the benzene there. Again, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, nitrogen dioxide, formaldehyde, all will come out of there. So definitely pollution for indoor air, for people with asthma, kids, things like that. Again, going to electric will be a cleaner fuel. And let me back up, because I don't think I mentioned this earlier. So Evergy, has a mix of nuclear, wind, some solar, they're getting a little more, coal and natural gas. They have 10 coal plants right now. By this time next year, 2 of those coal plants will be closed. They'll be down from 10 to 8. Roughly, that's going to knock 17% out as far as their greenhouse gases off their system. Is it enough? No, but it's going to make things even cleaner than they are now. So Evergy moving too slowly, but in the right direction there. So I did want to mention that. But if you have a natural gas stove, would really encourage you to look at the electric range or induction stoves as a possibility here. Again, on the rebate, there's a $840 discount.
Let's be honest, I don't go in this.
Okay. All right. I think we're done there. I think we're ready for the weatherization next. I'm trying to remember. Oh, solar panels. So the next one would be Bill Roush. And Bill will be talking about solar panels, and he certainly knows what he's talking about here. So without further ado, Bill Roush.
Oh, thanks, Bill. Yeah, there's a couple of things about solar, and then we'll move on to weatherization. But the uncapped 30% credit is for rooftop solar, meaning it goes on your home. Of course, you can mount it on the ground. It's not a question of where it's mounted. It's just this is the residential credit, which was going to phase out. It is not going to phase out over the next several years into 2032. So that is great news from that angle. So if we could move on to the next one then, please. This one's really exciting, actually, on the battery storage. We've not had a battery storage credit or incentive for residences or industry or anything. So now we do, and it is also 30% through 2032. The batteries need to be at least 3 kilowatt hours. That's really not very big. That would run a house for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, maybe, depending on how it's hooked up, whether it's hooked up to everything or just selected circuits. But that is that's the starting point, I think, you could say, for the kind of batteries that hang on your garage wall or outside, or that sort of backup power type battery that the various companies sell that you may or may not have heard of. What's even better about this is there's no requirements about how that battery is used to get the credit. You can use it certainly as backup power, and when your solar goes down, the battery then takes over, or when the grid goes down, you can run on battery power for as long as you have stored in the battery. But the advantage is now that you can not only do that if you are able, or you are allowed to use it for other things such as time of use savings. You could program it, for instance, to store up power when it's cheap, and then sell power back or offset power that you use when power is expensive, if you have like a time of day rate and that sort of thing. And there's many more things to come in that area. At some point, we might hear the term aggregation, where companies, and this is already happening in some markets, it's not just about your battery, it's about the 5,000 batteries that a company has sold in an area. Then if you agree to it, you could allow them to use the battery to buy and sell power to your electric utility, or to the regional transmission authority even eventually. Anyway, that it opens up a whole new potential marketplace, and the 30% income tax credit is going to be very exciting for the battery storage area. So I think that's the end of those two slides, and we're going to go on to Sharla Riead, who is going to talk about weatherization and the great opportunities that are there. Weatherization always works, it never fails, and it's kind of like Sharla. So go ahead, Sharla.
Thank you, Bill. Yes, I'm Sharla Riead. I run the Energy Smart Institute. I did my first energy audit back in 1979, and I've been helping homeowners and builders and code officials understand energy efficiency and saving energy ever since. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the details for the weatherization section, which Bill is correct. Weatherization always works. It not only helps you save money, it makes you more comfortable too. It makes you be able to use your whole house once it's actually sealed and insulated and all of that. There's weatherization in this act kind of flows through lots of different sections. And we've talked about some of the different sections, but one of the things I want to make sure that you all understand is that this act is sort of a bunch of different acts all put together. They took everything they could find that was energy efficiency, solar, weatherization, and put it together in one act. And so they're all different sections of this act. The HERA, which you've seen on the slides, the HEEHRA, stands for High Efficiency Electric Home Rebate Program, or Act. And so that is one section that has some weatherization things in it. And then the non-business energy property credit is the one that Bill was talking about earlier that you might have already taken some advantage of and gotten your $500 for replacing some windows or doing some insulation. That's also in here. And so, and then there's another one, which we're going to cover on the next slide, but I wanted to talk through this a little bit under the HERO part of it. There's a $1,600 cap on point of sale rebates. These are rebates that you can get actually when you are purchasing the materials. So there'll be rebates available from the manufacturer on insulation, air sealing, and ventilation, up to $1,600 that you can get just cutting away that first cost. It'll just chop your first cost down. There's tax credits available, which is part of that non-business energy property tax credit. And it's applied for when you apply your tax return. You will fill out your form and explain how much you spent on different things and get a tax credit for that. There's a $1,200 cap for that tax credit. And it's also limited by the type of thing that you do. So if you purchase a bunch of insulation, you can get up to $1,200 tax credit for the insulation. That takes your entire cap though. So then you wouldn't have anything left for anything else that year. You can do it the next year. You can get up to $250 per door for replacing up to 2 doors, exterior doors that are energy efficient, up to $600 toward windows. So you could do some windows this year, some windows next year, and get some windows next year, some windows the year after, get $600 per year for your windows. These types of things are available to renters as well as homeowners. So if a renter chooses to improve the place they're renting, they can get tax credit for working on that as well. And people who manage rentals, rental groups and landlords can also take advantage of this on their rental properties. As Bill mentioned earlier, there is $150 available toward an energy audit. And my strong suggestion is that the first thing that you do is get an energy audit, energy rating. It can also apply toward a home energy rating. And the difference between an audit and a rating is that a home energy rating actually includes all the financial aspects of calculating what's going on. So a home energy rater can give you a prioritized list of improvements that explain how much you're going to save. And so what is your full cost and how fast does it pay back and things like that. So you can get some of that financial analysis that you're going to need to understand which part of this act am I going to go for, or which things am I going to put where. Then there's the home energy performance-based whole house rebates. And these performance-based rebates are grants that are given to the state energy offices to develop and implement the HOMES program. Now, the HOMES stands for Homeowner Managing Energy Savings. So this HOMES program is another part of the act. It's another section. And with this, you prove how much energy you're going to save. And the way that you prove that is by calculating that with an energy model. And so that's the kind of thing that a HERS rater can do for you, or an energy auditor, depending on what software they're using. But it has to have an energy model to determine how much money you're going to save. And the model has to be weather normalized, energy use monthly and hourly before and after improvements. So that's just a restriction on the kind of software. There's got to be software used that is approved by the energy office to be used for this. And meaning that it's going to look at, it's not going to look at this house as an average across the United States. It's going to look at your house in your location with your weather pattern. So in our Kansas City region, how much are we actually expecting that we're going to be able to save? And then the savings can be valued based on time, location, or greenhouse gas emissions. So a lot of this is up to the states. It's just like Bill said, we won't really know what our states are deciding to do until they come out with their plan and they get their funding, and then they'll be telling us what all's happening. So some of this is a bit premature to tell you about, but we're wanting to give you a heads up on what's coming down the pike. The calculation must be done, and a detailed report has to be given to the homeowner that shows the work that's going to be performed, the equipment and the materials that are going to be installed, and most importantly, the projected energy savings for that, or the energy generation if you're putting photovoltaics or something that's going to generate energy on your home. Now, one of the important things throughout this entire act is that it talks about no double dipping. You can't get a rebate on your insulation under the HOMES program and then get a rebate also on that same insulation under the HERA program that you've already received a rebate for from the HOMES program. So there's ways in there. The states have to prove that they have methods to ensure that people aren't getting multiple rebates and taking too much advantage of the program. Now, this homes rebate program is good for all households. The work has to be completed by September 30th of 2031, and the rebates are based on energy savings. So a single family home, if the homeowner can prove through these modeled energy savings that they are going to save at least 25 or at least 20% and up to, but not including 35%, then they can get $2,000 in rebates for doing that work, or 50% of the project cost, depending on which is lower. If they're saving at least 35%, then they actually get double that. So $44,000 or 50% of the project cost. Now, if instead of modeling the energy savings, you're going to prove the energy savings by measuring the energy savings, and you have a report showing, here's what I used before the improvements, and here's what I'm using after the improvements, and you can show measured energy savings of at least 15%, then there can be a rebate that is based on state average savings per kilowatt hour that goes up to $2,000 or 50% of the project cost, whichever is less. And then this also works for multifamily homes. With the multifamily homes, it's the same levels, 20 to 35% savings is $2,000 per dwelling unit with a maximum of $200,000 per building. So someone who's running or owning an apartment building could make some good, could take advantage of this and be able to upgrade all of those units pretty nicely. If they can save 35% or more, they can go up to $4,000 per dwelling unit or $400,000 per building. So there's quite a bit of money available out here. And then they have the same thing instead of the projected or modeled energy savings. If they want to show the measured energy savings, and they have to save at least 15%. And the state is going to say how much per kilowatt hour that they're going to pay for that. Now, the same homes rebate program also has a section for low to moderate income households. If the annual income is less than 80% of the median income for the area, then the rebate based on the energy savings it doubles. You get $4,000 per home or dwelling unit for 20 to 35% savings, or up to 80% of the project cost. So there's a little larger gap there, a little larger leeway. And for 35% or greater, it's $8,000 per home or dwelling unit, or 80% of the project cost, up whichever one is lower. And then the same thing happens, you can measure your energy cost instead. Now, the state energy office also has the option under the homes program here to choose to increase those rebate amounts. So the state energy office could take it all the way up to paying 100% if they wanted to of these project costs. It depends on how much funds they get and what they choose to do with it. So the federal government says this is a minimum of what they need to do, and they can actually increase that if they want to. Okay, that is the weatherization section. Pretty much that covers anything you want to do for weatherization: caulking, insulating, light bulbs, things like that, that can be modeled to show that you're saving energy. It also can include new equipment. So those heat pumps and things can be part of that savings. And that's really why you want to do that energy audit first, so that you can look at, are there things I can do that's going to max out the homes program, and then I can get my new equipment under the HERA program, and maybe be able to take advantage of a little, all of the various parts of this act, and be able to do all kinds of things for my home. The next section is electric vehicles, and I'm going to bounce it back to Bill Griffith to let you know all about the electric vehicles part.
All right, thanks, Charlotte. I want to go back on heat pumps real quickly. There was a great question in the chat. Do we need a backup, or what happens to my gas furnace? If you put in an outdoor unit heat pump, you would just keep your gas furnace, electric furnace, whatever you have there as your backup. That's the easiest thing to do, the least expensive. We did not do that because our gas furnace was from 1997, so it was time to move on anyway. And so we transitioned to electric heat strips just due to that. But it's really an individual choice right there. But generally, you just keep whatever you have as your that was your main heat, and it becomes your backup. Okay, electric vehicles. Well, all of you know how to shop for cars, so I only have 1 point to make there. But for the EVs, if you get a brand new EV, it's a $7,500 tax credit, and I'm sure the dealers will let you know that. Now the new one is there's a $4,000 tax credit for used vehicles. That wasn't in there before. Now we do need to check with when the Department of Treasury comes out with this, what is the definition of a dealer for used cars? You can't get it from Fred down the street. It has to be from a dealer. But does that include Carvana? We're not sure yet. So you'll need to check on that. But the big deal is you need to check on the eligibility for new vehicles on whether they are covered. They may go in and out of coverage because part of what was put in this IRA was the materials that make up the vehicle have to be sourced. Basically what they're trying to do is cut China out on this, but they have to be sourced Canada, US, things like that. And that could change by year for the next few years. So don't assume what you're looking at next year is like, oh, that car will be a great one. We could get that. You're going to have to check with the dealer to make sure that one is eligible for the tax credit. The following year, it might not be, just for the next few years. So it's going to be a change everyone's going to need to look at. So just double check on that one there. Okay, next slide, please. Electric panel upgrade. Okay, so what do you need an electric panel upgrade as far as everything that's on the list of what we went over tonight? Well, if you get solar and you've got a small panel, you probably will need an upgrade. That one for sure. If you get an EV, you probably need an upgrade if you have a 60 or 100 amp panel. Now, obviously, the electrician is the one who you'll have to check with on advice there. Everything else, you don't really need an upgrade for that. Whatever you have is going to work on that. But let's look at the upgrade. Let's assume you do need it. You know, a lot of times it have to be 200 amps. 200 amps kind of is the standard code right now. If you qualify for the HERA update, or excuse me, upfront discount, it's up to $4,000 there. I talked to an electrician friend a couple of months ago, and I go, hey, what's it cost in Kansas City, Missouri for you to put in a 200 amp panel? And he said, $3,500. So that's what he said right then, you know, as kind of a ballpark figure. He goes, if we don't run into anything weird. All right, so that kind of gives us an idea for the area. Different cities will be a little different amount depending on permits and things like that. Now on the tax credit end, 30%. So if it's, you know, $4,000, or if it's a $3,500 you know, panel you got there, so that's $1,050 you could take off there at that point. You know, again, as Sharla mentioned, combine it with an IRA project if you can. You may have to, you know, put it out over a couple years, just depending on, because of the $600 max per year. So anyway, you'll have to check on that, maybe with an accountant, but certainly with the electrician on the bid there. So going, you know, looking at all those wonderful opportunities after you have a home energy audit, and what can be done on a house, or if you have a rental house, you know, it can really determine, you know, the things that can be done next. But the two big ones for the electric panel upgrade would definitely be solar and EV, an electric vehicle there. Those are the two that would get the most draw there, where you would want to have an update or an upgrade on your electric panel there. Okay, I think, let's see, next slide, I think, yeah. Okay, so Bill Roush, do you want to take it from here? Or I can. Well, I will then. So some great things for a calculator on what will work with your place. This link to Rewiring America. This calculator, I've used it and played around with it a little bit. Will give you an idea there. And also, you can also type in your zip code, and you can also, if you know what you made on your tax return, put that in and find out, hey, do I qualify for rebates rather than the tax credit? That's another one you can play around with here. But these are really two good links on this. Okay, okay, we are ready for questions here.
Let's go ahead and stop sharing the screen, and that way when we ask questions, we can see people's faces.
I have one. We've been trying to answer. I've been trying to answer questions as they show up, but I'm sure there's more questions out there. But the one question that I couldn't answer is there a rebate for hybrid vehicles? Anyone know? Good question.
Good question.
I'd say probably not, since they're trying to push all electric, but who knows? There's so much unanswered. It's possible.
This is Jerry Reese. What about plug-in hybrids? Rebates on those? Maybe half the EV?
It's hard to say right now.
I thought I saw a document. I thought I saw a document where that was listed among many vehicles. But by vehicle, it kind of made it. It did specify both, I thought.
Well, here's the thing: is that they're going to ask for a certain content of the vehicle to be made in America, and I'm not sure the plug-in vehicles have that. I mean, the plug-in hybrids. So,
well, I don't have an answer either, but I am looking at something that says that what this act did was extend the previous 30D tax credit for electric vehicles, which did include plug-in hybrids. So you would still have to be subject to the domestic content aspects of the battery, but I have not seen anything specific on the plug-in hybrids. That is a good question, and so we'll have to see.
So if anyone has a question, you can unmute yourself and ask it.
This is Jerry Reese again. I listened to a webinar by Climate Energy Project that talked about benefits to renters who are low and moderate income people, something called pay-as-you-go. Is that something you're familiar with? I think somehow they get something off of their rent based on maybe what the owner does.
Pay as you save, PAYS, is a program where you're basically your utility acts as your bank or your financing group. And so the idea is that you have take certain actions to save energy, and that will be less than your payment back to them. It's a way of getting long-term financing, so the monthly payment is low and less than your the payment is less than the savings, which is bigger, and it helps you be net positive from the beginning. The problem is that Kansas does not currently have pay as you save. They are wrangling now, and Climate and Energy Project is fighting hard. Please help them if you can support them to enact pay as you save on the Kansas side. Missouri does have pay as you save. I'm a little less familiar with it there, and I don't know exactly how you know, that will mesh with
sources of renewable energy.
These new, you know, rebates and that sort of thing. So that's what I know.
Thanks, Bill. I forgot that question was still lingering.
I've got a question on, so all year long, I've been pestered by, sort of dropped off, but there were companies that, at least on the Kansas side, that wanted to install the whole, a solar project. And then you wind up, somehow they get the credit. No, I'm supposed to still be able to get the credit, but they somehow work out the financing, and I didn't understand it, but we wind up paying them over the life of the project instead of just owning the system outright. Do you know anything about those? And it looked to me like they were making off with something there.
So was that a lease type of program?
Well, I don't have the exact information there because I know the way the previous, before this new bill came through, I know that the lease programs had to have a different set of rules, and so I'm not certain because what I knew about the bill didn't seem to jibe with what I was being told. But there was multiple companies, including even the ones that did the Tesla one, and then some of the other several different systems. And the advertisement was that you didn't have to pay anything; you could just get your solar installed.
Well,
that's the catch.
You do pay because you pay to them over an extended time. You know, that's what they're capturing is you're basically borrowing money from them in a sense. They maintain ownership though,
yes,
under these service agreements or leases or whatever they might be called in your state, but you're paying for a long time. The cheaper way to go is almost always to borrow the money yourself or use your own money, pay for it up front, and then have this system and capture the savings afterwards. Not everybody can do that. And so that's why it's very enticing to have a system where you, in effect, borrow over a long period of time, and then the payment is to them is hopefully somewhat less than your savings. But of course, that depends on how trustworthy that company is that is making that offer. And they all are not trustworthy.
Right. But in theory, they're supposed to, when they do a lease, that they get the tax credit. Is that supposed to be a kind of a discount built into the lease? Or some way they're supposed to get that money too, but it's probably almost impossible to figure out how they did it. And it may not have happened. It's best to own, and we're not going to talk on this time, and it's not really all that relevant at the moment, but there's also what's called white tags and green tags, which most people have no idea what those are. White tags are for energy efficiency, and green tags are basically for clean energy projects. And if in time, if we have a carbon tax, and I fully expect we will eventually, because most industrial countries have some kind of carbon tax, then your white tags and green tags offset what you have to pay in carbon tax. And so if you lease the system, they own your white and green tags, not you. So again, another reason to own, because I think you will find that those will become valuable over time. It's hard to say, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see white tags and green tags crop up in our future in just a few years, depending on how bad things get.
This is Jerry Reese again. How would a nonprofit like a church navigate this new law so that they can get a rebate on solar panels, a 30% rebate on their solar panel projects?
Well, I worked with the City of Independence as their energy administrator, and actually I did the same thing for Wyandotte County BPU too. But how this works with churches or any nonprofit is you can do what's called a performance contract, where they come in and do the work on your building. And depending on what you choose to do, it always has to have a payback of around 10 years. And they're supposed to guarantee that you're not paying any more than you pay now and supposedly pay less. But the idea is at the end of 10 years, you own all this stuff and all of a sudden your bills drop dramatically. The way they get the credit back to you is they can, if they're a profitable company, they can take the tax credit themselves and apply that as a discount to your performance contract. Or they can sell that credit to somebody who needs somebody like, oh, I don't know. So Elon, I want to say Elon Musk. I almost hate to bring him up, but somebody has so much tax in theory. Of course, he doesn't pay tax, but somebody who in theory pays tax, they might want that tax rebate or credit.
And the church itself or the nonprofit itself get that money back directly instead of having to sell its tax credit. I thought that's what part of this was about.
You don't pay taxes.
I know that was why the new law allowed the rebate back to nonprofits instead of, because they don't get the tax credit, but they will get this 30% rebate.
This newer rebate program can go directly to you, but Bill, maybe you should take that one. But traditionally, they would take the rebate and sell it to somebody and then give the money back to the church or the school.
Okay, for the nonprofits, there's another word. We need to have another session on this for nonprofits, I think, as we learn more. And we don't know the details from Treasury and everything yet. But the new word is transferability. And so that credit that the church, obviously, or any nonprofit, they don't pay federal taxes. So they couldn't take the tax credits in the past. Well, now they are allocating those credits or allowing them to take the credits. Of course, it's no good to them, but what they've legalized by the RIA is the selling of that tax credit to someone else who can use it. And that transferability could be very important. And it's a very exciting thing for projects going forward. Because the old way that people tried to capture some of that tax credit through kinds of leases and things like that, usually a lot of that benefit did not get passed through to the church or the nonprofit
or school or whoever,
or school or whatever. The new way, it's much easier. I won't go into the details, but it's an easy sell to another person, or that's what we're hoping for in the future, depending on how they write the rules. It doesn't require elaborate financial instruments to be created. It's more of a direct sell of that credit to a buyer.
And it's almost an upfront benefit rather than waiting over many years.
Yeah, you would get the benefit as soon as you sold that credit.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there'll be some tax ramifications or not. So it'd be another situation where you want to make sure somebody who really understands this in the tax business helps you out. Make sure you get the best benefit.
Correct.
Can I jump in here with a question?
Yes.
Sure.
A lot of different programs were presented here tonight. So I guess my question is, how do you navigate this? Like, should you just try to go and do all this stuff? I mean, probably not a good idea. Or pick the thing that you were already thinking about, or I don't know.
I'll mention a couple of things, even though Sharla and Ken are more qualified. But, first of all, as they said in their slides, do the energy audit first, for your home. So there's that. But also want to mention that there are groups, and Kansas Climate and Energy Project is one of them, that is talking about the idea of a kind of a navigator, an energy navigator, to help with the rules of the program itself, not so much necessarily with the energy audits and ratings and finding of the technical aspects of that, but a guide for a person to help them through the program. And these, of course, would probably be geared to lower income folks, because this program is targeted to them. I mean, the rebate, part of the rebate programs is our income verified and targeted. So they're the ones that most need navigation assistance, I think.
But I want to say too, you definitely want to get some kind of an overall plan together first and do an audit or get a HERS rating, because you want to focus on doing the weatherization first. Actually, health and safety would be number one. So if you currently have gas appliances and things, you need to make sure that if you tighten up and weatherize your house, you're not going to make it unsafe and have it kill you in your sleep. So you need to look at the health and safety, then you need to do the weatherization, and then look at your equipment, because you want to size any new equipment you get for your newly tightened insulated house, because otherwise, if you just replace what you've got, you might be oversized, and then you might have, you know, an air conditioner that short cycles and makes you cold and clammy in the summer instead of dry and comfortable, or a furnace that short cycles and ends up wearing itself out really quickly. So you really need to try to prioritize, so that at the end of the day, once you've done everything, it's all sized correctly and it all fits together, works well together.
And you get the most bang for your buck.
Yes, and you get the most bang for your buck.
Because if you can downsize your heating, cooling equipment, if your home's improved, you pay to do that up front, and then all of a sudden you can downsize your heating equipment, which costs less. Then that either helps pay for what you did to make your house more efficient, or it's just a nice thing to have money in your pocket.
And I would also say that how old is the equipment in your house? You know, whether it's the range, the heat pump, you know, the hot water, you know, not heat pump, but the furnace, the hot water heater, the air conditioner. You can also look at prioritizing your equipment, like, okay, what's the oldest thing I have here that's going to conk out maybe first, and kind of have a list there as far as on the equipment size of things. Now, as far as the equipment goes, by far for climate, the best thing you can do is get a heat pump. So if you're looking at it just from the climate angle, but you also, you know, again, if, hey, my water heater's on its last legs, then like, well, then, you know, the water heater needs to be done before the air conditioning unit. So it also depends on, you know, the equipment around at your house. But I would also, from what we've found in our studies on a heat pump, you could almost look at a heat pump as an energy efficiency investment. Now, you do have to watch on, and to Ken and Sharla's point, you do have to watch on sizing of it. You don't want to get it sized wrong. The one I happen to have can actually adjust the size on the inside, so that's good. But not all of them can do that. So you do want to make sure it gets sized correctly. So to their point, what we also found on studies as far as on insulating, the biggest bang for the buck, as far as if you're updating your equipment in your house, is to insulate the rim joist of your house is a big deal. And then also the ductwork. Those two things will add a real big bang to the buck to your heating and cooling equipment in and of itself. And then if you have a heat pump, it'll do even better. But those two things, and it's really not expensive to do those two things. Rim joist, although when I did mine, it was kind of dirty work, but it wasn't very expensive. And then, you know, again, insulating the ductwork is a big deal.
And it's important to air seal when you insulate too.
Yes.
Make sure you seal it first, then insulate it.
Yes, if you're going to insulate your attic, have somebody seal all those bypasses and cracks and stuff in the attic to make it tight, and then add the insulation.
And the rim joist and the ductwork, all of it.
I'm actually getting a quote on a rental house because I looked at it and was like, holy heck, I can't even get to some of this ductwork about sealing it from the inside using the ductwork from the inside. Like, man, that's going to be a lot easier to do that than try this. And of course, one of the great things with the IRA, that's going to be covered to a higher degree than before. So
yep.
I'm looking at at that because it already has a heat pump in it because the air conditioner conked out last year. So I had to get something. I go, well, let me go ahead and get the heat pump. And that's one of those cases where what do you do first? Well, if you lose your heat or your AC, that's
you're
going to
do that.
couple of days. So anyway.
So there's a couple of things in the chat that I'd like us to address, and one.
Good. I was going to bring that up. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. One relates to the tax credits for low-income folks who wouldn't pay federal income tax or much federal income tax. And that's the bad part about the tax credit things. You can only offset the taxes that you owe. You can, you can't go beyond that. And so if that's the bad news, low-income people, if you have a year that's low income and you don't pay taxes, you don't get any tax credit. So that's what the rebates are about. And that's another advantage of the rebate.
You can roll the tax credits forward though, too. So you can, if you start making money next year, you can take your tax credit.
Yeah, you get reemployed next year and you pay taxes, you take the credit then, or however that works.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to also.
Does pay as you save also address this issue that you talked about earlier? Pay as you save for people who
pay as you save is
people.
not pay. Kansans don't have pay as you save. First of all,
thank Missouri.
And second of all, pay as you save is really a financing mechanism, not a rebate or a credit. Am I right, Sharla?
Right, exactly. I would like, there's one question here that I've saved. I would like to answer from Bill Gottschalk about, I'm looking to build a new build that would roll the cost of the solar to the financed amount of the home. And that's called an energy mortgage. And they're out there. And there is, if you go to Heartland Renewable Energy Project or heartlandrenewable.org and dig through the past sessions, I talked about energy mortgages as one of our past, what we call virtual workshops. I didn't say this earlier, but I'm president of the Heartland Renewable Energy Society. And so we're putting together some good stuff on our past workshops. So if you do an energy mortgage, then you package the whole thing up and make sure you get your financing and stuff that helps do all of it.
And then I see there's a request to define rim joists. The rim joist is that area that's, if you've got a basement or a crawl space and you have a concrete wall coming up, then you have joists, floor joists that sit on top of that. And then you have your floor sitting on top of those joists. The area that is above the concrete and below the subfloor is called your rim joist. And that area typically is extremely leaky. And it's also an area of very high pressure. So as the air is leaking out of the top of your house, it's trying to suck it in the rim joist, and it's bringing in air into your basement from outside. So you seal up the top, you seal up the bottom, and you've reduced an awful lot of air exchange with the outside world.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would pay if everyone would go down the basement and check their rim joists and see if you have insulation around it. And usually foam insulation, and Sharla and Ken, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think foam insulation works there a lot better than other types of insulation.
Yeah, Michael Connell.
It will air seal and insulate at the same time, and that's a really excellent application for foam insulation. Yes.
Michael Connell was on this. I think he's still on here somewhere. I don't see him right off, but he likes to advocate that you get foam board and you cut it to the openings between each floor joist. There's going to be like a space 16 inches wide by however tall, 6 inches or whatever. You cut the foam board to fit that, and then you buy that foam that you get in the can from wherever, and you just kind of go around that to seal the edge. And you just do that. So it's the lowest cost way, fastest way to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did for that. So that's, a lot of that can be do it yourself on that, but that's one of the first things folks could do is just, hey, go down to your basement and just check your rim joist. That's big deal.
Now, a lot of times too, if you look at the first board that lays on your concrete, a lot of times they don't do the greatest job of smoothing concrete on the top. The gravel comes up and stuff. I bet sometimes some people, if you look at the board that's sitting on your concrete and during the daytime, turn the lights off in your basement, you can see outside. Yeah. So you may have to go and caulk between the bottom board and your concrete or whatever. Well, with an expandable foam, so it's got to have a well, anyway, there's a number of foams out there that allow expansion, and I don't have any names off the top of my head, but you're going to have some expansion and contraction difference between wood and concrete. but
But
that
it
leaks a
also
lot,
helps
too.
keep the critters out.
Yeah, that's where mice come in. Mike O'Connell, there you are.
Well, we're at 8:30. Is there any last final pressing questions from the gallery?
Well, before my last plug here then is before you, if you're not sure what to do, you can normally contact your local utility and just talk to somebody there. They almost, well, as far as I know, they all have some kind of energy department that's there to answer questions for you. Also, we have the local source Metropolitan Energy Center. Bill introduced that he was the first director and got the whole thing started, but it's still around, and its mission, its primary mission is to be of help to consumers. And so you can contact them at, I think it's 816-531-SAVE or 7283. And just call them and they will help steer you in the right direction.
All right. Any last comments, final words from our presenters?
Thanks
Say
very
thank-
much. Appreciate the patience of the audience, especially when we don't know every detail yet by any means. Watch this space, as they say, for updates and all the websites we've put out.
Yeah,
What-
thank
one
you
last
all for
thing.
spending this last hour and a half with us, and
Yeah.
hopefully we were helpful.
I'm going to ask too that we are able to show this video as one of our workshops on Heartland Renewable, and maybe we can partner with you again on one of the, we're glad to do it again with you on these future sessions.
Yeah, it's been great to partner. I mean, I found that partnership is beneficial all the way around. We had a great turnout tonight, the best turnout for years. Had 58, counted 55 tiled with, I went through and looked how many folks had doubles, and we had 58 to 60 folks counting our presenters tonight. So that was great. So
I counted 59 tiles.
okay, great. Well, Jerry, any final thoughts from you?
No, this was
Diane.
great. This was great. I know there's interest beyond the Kansas City area in seeing this recording.
Yeah. Okay. Jim Turner, thanks for helping coordinate this. Any final thoughts, Jim? All right, he's got his video turned off. Well, all right. Well, I'll do a final thought here. Thank you all for coming tonight. As I said, this was great information to expand our knowledge on things, on technology, on energy credits, on rebates. I can attest that I did a lot of these during the last couple of years and didn't get as good of rebates. And so it's exciting that these rebates and tax credits are available now. So you not only get the federal, but also look at your energy provider. Like I live in Clay County rural area, and so our co-op provided some additional rebates. So yeah, look at these, and if you need some help, you can contact us. I installed my own heat pump with the help of a friend. So so if you want some advice, please reach out to us, and yeah, get out there. I think that in the last couple of years, there's maybe been some lull in our excitement to do energy efficient things, but I'm excited that we're going to be getting back on board, getting things more efficient and helping to lower our carbon footprint. And this is a monthly program usually. It's usually the first Monday of the month, but sometimes it adjusts depending on the presenter's schedule. If you'd like to get on our emailing list to see our schedule, you can go to email me at Chad C, Chad C at sskc.org. That's Sustainable Sanctuary Coalition, Kansas City.org. It's the end of the year. There's lots of great nonprofits out here who will be asking you for a contribution, an end of year tax deductible contribution. So a lot of the presenters are involved with some of those organizations. I'd invite you to reach out to them, go to those organizations' website, make a donation, make multiple donations if you can. SSC will be collecting donations as well, and so I'd invite you to support us and other organizations. If you're a part of a faith community and you'd like to get your faith community more actively involved in a more corporate way, then let us know and we'll help you do that. So anyway, thanks so much. It's been a great evening from our presenters. You all did an excellent job. The hour and a half flew by. Great pace on the information, great diversity of mixing it up. It was perfect. So thank you. We'll get this video uploaded to SSC's YouTube channel, hopefully this week. Jerry and I will be sending that out, but if you'd like to, if you're not on our email list and you'd like to see where that is, you can go to SSC's website, and we've got a link on our main page to get to our recording. So anyway.
Another thing we do when we send out the recording, we also ask the presenters if they'd be willing to share their PowerPoint presentation that we can send out as an attachment.
Right. So anyway, well, without further ado, let's give everybody a round of applause who presented. Thank you so much. You all did great. Thanks for all the hard work that you're doing and that you're continuing to do. Let's continue to partner together. And with that, I'll say good night, everybody.